If you guys wondering if there's any UFC fighter who has been arrested, don't worry, because in this video we look those UFC fighters that's been arrested, the crime they eligibly committed, whether they were convicted and the consequences they faced. Starting off with one of the best fighter in the UFC history, Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is one of the most paid athlete. Conor McGregor known for his trash talk and been arrested after trash talking with himself and Khabib. In April 2018, McGregor and some of his friends attacked a bus that Khabib was on in loading dock of the Barclays Center in New York just 2 days before Khabib was fighting El Lacutina at UFC 223. The incident saw McGregor throw a trolley through the bus window and attempted to do with same with the chair. Michael Chiesa and Ray Borg were both cut by the glass, with Borg getting glass in his eyes. Both fighters were pulled from their fight at UFC 223. McGregor turned himself into NYPD later on that night and was charged with 3 counts of assault and 1 count of criminal mischief. McGregor was released on $50,000 bail and made to do a 5 days of community service, attended a anger management therapy, and pay for all the damages he caused. Michael Chiesa also sued McGregor for $50 million in damage, the result of which remains unclosed. The most recent, in March 2022, Conor McGregor was arrested in Ireland facing 6 charges, consisting of dangerous driving, driving without a license, and having no insurance. McGregor is out on bail with his on November 24. The next on the list is the greatest martial artist of all time, is well known for having troublesome outside of the octagon, Jon Jones. Jon Jones has been arrested 4 times since 2010. His first arrest was in 2012 after he was driving while intoxicated and drove his car into a pole in New York. He pleaded guilty and received a $1,000 fine and a 6-month driving suspension. In 2015, Jon Jones was arrested for a hit and run where he skipped the red light and crashed into 2 others' vehicles that left a pregnant woman and with a broken arm. Jon Jones was sentenced to 18 months of probation and 72 charity appearances, was stripped of his light heavyweight title by the UFC and suspended indefinitely. In 2019, Jon Jones was arrested and charged with a battery for assaulting a woman at a strip club at Albicure. Jones pleaded no contest and received a deferred 90-day sentence. In 2020, Jones was arrested for the 4th time for driving and firing a gun under the influence, having an open container, and having no car insurance. John pled guilty to driving while intoxicated, for which the other charges were dropped. He served 4 days of house arrest and an unknown amount of probation, and a therapy was given in order to avoid the arrest and alcohol. John's most recent arrest was in September 2021, just hours after his UFC Hall of Fame ceremony. He was charged with domestic violence and tampering with a vehicle. Jones denied it. He struck his fiancée despite her having blood on her face and clothing, as well as on the bed sheet in the hotel room. After being picked up, Jones headbutted a vehicle and caused a dent in the hood. Jones was later released on bond, with his domestic violence charge were dropped, but he pleaded guilty to the tampering the vehicle charge. John had to pay a fine of $1,000 and attend a anger management counseling. Overall, it's amazing to see one of the most composed and calm fighter under the pressure lose frame and common sense after drugs are involved. John is looking to commit a life without alcohol. The next one on the list is the Lee Murray. Fought once in UFC 46 in 2004 before his MMA career ended in 2005 after being stabbed multiple times outside a club in Mayfair, London. Before his fighting career, Lee Murray was a notorious London drug dealer, once convicted for the possession of a cocaine and a cannabis. Lee Murray was arrested and charged in 2006 for the mastermind role in a security depot robbery in Kent, England. The heist was armed robbery where roughly 92 million was stolen. In 2010, Lee Murray was sentenced a 10 years prison and this was later increased to 25 years after a failed prison escape. Lee Murray will be 57 years old if he serves his full sentence until 2025. Jason Miller. Jason Miller is a former UFC fighter and a TUF coach who has been arrested over 12 times since 2011. Some of his crimes include vandalism, assaulting officer of the law, domestic violence, battery and assaulting, driving under the influence, and trespassing. Some of the most notable arrests are as follows. In 2011, Miller was charged with assault after headlocking his sister at a party and refusing to let her go. In 2019, Miller pled a guilty and a vandalism charge and was sentenced 1 year in prison. He had vandalized his girlfriend's property in LA, Hebra, California. Miller's most recent arrest was in September 2021, charged with a domestic violence after his partner called the police and showed signs of trauma to her face and neck. Miller struggled with the police and was arrested, handcuffed, and taken to the hospital. Miller is being held on a bail of $1.385 million. It later comes to the light that a few days before his domestic violence arrest, Miller was involved in a bar fight. A man suffered broken ribs and Miller was charged with assault and battery. It seemed inevitable that Jason Miller will spending many years behind the bar once his trial are concluded in 2023. Luis Pina. Luis Pina was a very promising UFC fighter who had 5 wins and 3 losses. UFC record, he was released by the UFC after being arrested 3 times between June and October 2021. Each and every arrest was a result of battery and domestic violence charge against his girlfriend. But the UFC could no longer tolerate. Prior to it, during the time he committed these crimes, Pena was open about his drug abuse and mental health issues, but refused to go a professional treatment. That's it for today. Well, there are total 15 UFC fighters who has been arrested, and I cover 5 in this video. So consider it part 1. In part 2, I will cover the remaining one. So make sure to subscribe for the part